Okay, we can look at Christina by Robert Browning. Very similar to a lot of the other poems in the sense of being another quite bitter, potentially misogynistic, dramatic monologue, and one where Browning really doesn't want us to agree with or identify with the speaker. He wants us to take their argument, perhaps reject it, and actually mock the figure. And it really deals with kind of male obsession, which I think starts from the title onwards. There is some criticism that labels Christina as being the name of a particular royal figure, but I'm not sure that context is very important when writing about the poem. You might make more interesting points about the placement of that name on its own as a privileged position, and maybe about the religious connotations in the way that name is formed, but it really shows this obsession with the she of the poem. So Christina is clearly blamed from the first stanza onwards. She should never have looked at me. So the pronouns are placed at either side of the line to show that she is the sort of aggressor or the antagonist, and that the me, the speaker, is the victim. And I would particularly look at the verb looked, because it shows how little the sort of drama and conflict of the poem is based on. This character, Christina, has only looked at him, and it's made this much impact. There's a very sort of sneering, negative voice from the speaker, and it starts to come through from that ellipsis used for caesura. There are plenty men you call such. So there's this kind of rejection of others, very angry tone set up. And the demonizing and the misogyny is really clarified in that final line of the first stanza, when she fixed me, glancing round them. So moving from looked to fixed, it almost creates this image of a femme fatale by presenting Christina as like a Gorgon or Medusa from Greek myths, who would turn men to stone when looking at them. So it could be seen as an interesting mythical illusion. The anger then comes across further in the rhetorical questions, particularly that first one, monosyllabic, elliptical, very brutal. And there's a lot of direct speech here, but really it's him sort of fantasizing. It's not real speech that it was said between them, but it's dealing with some of his kind of romantic notions. The listener is really vague, but presumed to be fellow men who are assumed to agree and share his perspective, and I think that's shown in stanza 3 with the kind of plural pronoun, "Oh, we're sunk enough here, God knows." We are brought in there, we are part of that collective we, and by sunk he means that we are doomed or ruined on earth in love. And his real focus is very much on death and beyond life right from here. So the spirit's true endowments. So there's a clear dissatisfaction with sort of the physical living world that runs throughout the poem. Stanza 4, things become more dramatic, describing the sort of moments in life, flashes struck from midnights, fire, flames, and the anger of it perhaps shows the kind of idea that the speaker doesn't feel he's getting this sort of passionate love and drama and excitement in life. Again, stanza 5, there is real direct address to us. Doubt you, if in some such moment as she fixed me. Using that verb doubt from the beginning really challenges us or dares us to disagree. There is this quite forceful male voice to the poem. Starting to move from that to the spiritual ideas again, by talking about this love way with some other soul to mingle. So use of the noun soul starts to move us beyond the physical, although the verb mingle sounds much more casual and day to day. So the speaker moves into this kind of argument. It moves from kind of ranting and whinging to a really strong argument that mine and her souls rush together. So a religious idea of kind of soulmates and destiny. And like Prospers sort of talks quite dismissively about life and the ending of it as a way to reach this. God's secret being a kind of euphemistic phrase for this everlasting love that he thinks he gains. So stanza 8, speaker almost becomes as sort of villainous and delusional as the killer and prefer his lover. Such am I, the secret's mine now. Again, that very possessive pronoun, the exclamative, she has lost me, I have gained her. Again, quite aggressive towards Christina through applying the negative verb lost to her and placing her at the beginning, whereas he is kind of victorious. And in these last few lines, her soul's mine and thus grown perfect. So repetition of mine, and a bit like in Prefers Lover, the idea of her being perfect because of him. So one of the things I think Browning is mocking is the men of his era and the idea that they did think they could do all the choosing and that women were only complete and perfect through a man's sort of approval. Next life come quickly. He's quite urgent, quite dramatic. Some readers seem to interpret this as an idea that he's going to murder Christina to make it happen faster, but I'm not even sure it's as exciting as that. I think we have a persona who's meant to be quite sort of sad and pathetic and is actually just going to wait out the rest of his life on the assumption that he will be with Christina in the world beyond. This world's use will have been ended. That final line saying that actually to see her and for this brief moment of interaction is all the point of the living world, and that the eternity together is all that really matters. One of the challenges of this poem is how long it is, and I would encourage you to really just focus on particular stanzas, because you wouldn't have time to write about everything. As long as you understand the overall picture and could talk about the beginning, the end, and perhaps one stanza in the middle, you would be able to say quite a lot about Christina.